Greetings. This week we're looking at Module 4, talking about technology integration, looking at the universal design for learning. So to start off with this lesson, just want to go back to the home page just to point out, this is my Bitmoji of the week. This is me trying to find calmness after a stressful week, trying my literature review class. And in honor of this week's assignment, the Bitmoji I used was on the Apple mobile phone app. So it fits in with our theme for the week, focusing on mobile tools for learning. So when we look at module number 4, again, this would be the discussion post that we would have in a Zoom meeting. But as I find down to module 4, under the student view, you would see how it's organized. Is the first is the introduction. And an introduction shows a couple different module objectives, including to investigate the M-Learning and justify its role in online course development, as well as assessing the benefit and challenges with M-Learning technology. And finally, the people who are going through this professional development class would be able to evaluate the M-Learning tools from an ethical and theoretical standpoint. Moving to the next part of the module, this would be the hot links. First here I have a nice article that I found out about 20 BYOD or mobile learning apps, looking at it from the perspective of how can we integrate those technologies into today. First part of the assignment was to create or evaluate some M-Learning apps and implementation tools for the UDL framework to build a student achievement. I went through and looked and identified some of the apps, including Grammarly, Stock Market Game, Khan Academy for Education, TED Ed, Quizlet, Wolfram Alpha, Google Classroom Mobile, EduMe, Socrative Student, Adobe Experience Cloud. Each of them were unique. I went through and tried to explain what the purpose of all of them are. I signed up for free accounts on most of them just to kind of preview things that I haven't seen before. Okay, so in this professional development module, the fourth activity is going to go through and explain how these things are going to be evaluated through the technology assistance model or the TAM model. The two main constructs, which is focusing on perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use. I found some research articles that were looking at the whole process of how they find out this external variable and how it's used or pushed into a classroom for UDL. So I posted that. The second part of the evaluation process first focused on the media naturalness theory. Again, found a different article there showing about how to compare to a face-to-face medium to this virtual learning that we do in this type of environment. So the first one I looked at was Google Classroom. I looked at it from the perceived usefulness in this being a one-stop location for all teacher-assigned materials. The program provides communication for class activities. Overall, the program is easy to use, but it lacks that flow of student achievement as well as a physical scope and sequence for materials. So if you're looking at it from the perspective of a learning management software in the mobile device, it's a little bit challenging to use. But if you're looking at it for a piece of the puzzle for curriculum support, it works very well in that sense, meaning that I could put out the videos I'd like to show, or I could put the assignment out, or some guided reading or readings to put into it. I also looked at it from the perspective again of the looking at the MNT, talking about the whole idea of it allowing for that Google Meet, which is a high outcome ability for evaluation. Features like Google Chat and email are going to be a little bit lower level in the outcomes, but they also supports this whole idea of communicating with the students, but it's not in a personal way that we're looking for from a face-to-face discussion. The other program I wasn't as familiar with is Socrative Student, but I did sign up for a free account. Um, I thought it was really interesting to see how it worked, but I found it pretty quirky at first to use until I started to mess around with it a little bit. The program worked as a support unit for ongoing assessment with teacher customizations to materials. I found that that was the biggest strength of it from the usefulness perspective was the assessment aspect of it. If I was looking at to perhaps integrate this into a classroom that maybe didn't have a learning management software, maybe more of a blended learning environment. Um, the perceived ease of use from a ease of use is from a teaching perspective, it appeared to be challenging to customize with a scope. But for students, the views seem to be fine. I'd say fine in the sense that you could see what you could do. The one thing that I found in evaluating this was there was no video explanations. So I had to go on to YouTube to find some more supporting information just for me to get used to getting it set up. There was also an issue when we're looking at UDL with the fact that the assessments could not be modified for individual students, at least on the free account that I signed up for, meaning I could throw assessments out to a class, but not every one of them would be individualized in the sense that I would assign one a modified version. Where I know that would be the same thing with Google Classroom. I would have to prepare two different Google Forms. This just didn't seem, it seemed like I would have more problems trying to look through the data that was collected as things that were missing. The one thing that was nice about the assessments that you would get back from this was it does come back in Excel form so that you could go through and change it and add it to a grade book. Um, Now looking at it from an MTM or MNT perspective about the whole person to person, there was a low ability for evaluation from the MTN. But again, I said I liked how I could at least see the data in that Excel format. There was a messaging capability that I saw, but it was again more of an email based system, so it was hard to see where there would be any kind of personalization. So this program again would work from a perspective of being a supplement to an instructional piece, but not serving as the whole, meaning not a learning management software and really not even a support unit besides that assessment component for me. So the next thing in the professional development portion of this is I asked that the participants use one of the other M Learning tools from that hot links page, or one of the own tools that they use, and to evaluate them with the TAM or the MNT. And then again, to present their findings in either a video, a Canva infographic, or any type of acceptable substitute for an assignment. How do we present this information in that way? And then finally, there's going to be up task 5, which is a reflection page on the next discussion board, where I'm going to ask them to expand upon two classmates' posts. And when looking at that discussion board, challenge to evaluate M Learning tools from the technology assistant model and the median naturalness theory. How would you judge the positive and negative features of each tool? What ethical considerations do you have to make? And how can you implement this tool for UDL implementation? And finally, what are the challenges of the things that you've encountered? Um, that would be the discussion post. We would then have this video, which would be serving as that Zoom video that I'm trying to emulate here in this discussion. And then finally, the course requirements here, including the references for the different articles that I found. Lots of great information that you could find about technological tools and implementation in the classroom. In this unit, in this module, I try to focus on things that I use more at the high school level, trying to go through from a secondary perspective to integrate those programs, but also learn about some new ones as well.